The strange story of the astronaut who disappeared into space and reappeared decades later. John Smith was born in 1941, the offspring of a family with a great military tradition. He dreamed of becoming a pilot since childhood. The dream came true quite easily. After school, he went to the U.S. Air Force Military College in 1960 and graduated with very good grades. Soon the opportunity came to show his skills in battle. The young pilot was sent to Vietnam. He did not have much time, but he received the Medal for Service in Vietnam. True, gossip said that this medal was awarded to anyone who had made at least one combat sortie, but John Smith had more ambitious plans. Having flown for 10 years more than 9,000 hours, he decided to apply for admission to the Astronaut Corps. And it's worth remembering when the described events occurred after the end of the Apollo lunar program, the administrator of President Reagan introduced the SOI program. It was planned to deploy in near-Earth space a whole complex of spacecraft designed to detect and destroy ballistic missiles of potential enemies. Apparently, John Smith and his colleagues, among other things, were forced to experiment with means that could be used for more serious tasks, including the destruction of foreign spy satellites. Regardless, Smith, at the end of October 1973, embarked on a new mission led by the Pentagon. The first 3 days of the flight were normal, but then the spacecraft's maneuvering and orientation system failed. Thus, the craft and its pilot were in the area of radiation zones, which, as is known, negatively affects not only the body, but also electronics. NASA tried to save the astronaut, but suddenly contact was lost. In the chaos, no one paid attention to the fact that along with the communication signals, a strange noise was heard. Only then did experts analyze the records, suggest that the source of these sounds was somewhere near the constellation Triangulum. It was especially active during Smith's flight, eventually began to fade and then disappear altogether. And after what happened in space, all NASA technicians were in shock. Soon the authorities strictly ordered all employees with the threats and immediate dismissal to forget about the cosmic tragedy that had happened as if it had never happened. And in this case, the launch of the spacecraft piloted by Smith was noted in the documentation simply as a failure, and the astronaut was considered dead as a result of the accident during a training flight. The military and space personnel of NASA are in the absolute state of secrecy, and no one was worried that this story would come out. It could have ended if there had not been a dramatic turn of events, the mysterious resurrection of the astronaut. An earthquake shook NASA in late 2000. The lost American satellite craft was suddenly discovered by accident. How did this happen? An amateur astronomer from Fiji Islands recorded an unknown cosmic body in orbit at an altitude of about 480 kilometers above the Earth and reported it to the American Space Agency, NASA. The agency specialists sent their radars to the designated area, then searched the archives and came to the conclusion that it was Smith's ship which had once disappeared. Although the spacecraft still did not respond to radio requests, NASA decided to take advantage of the fact that the object had descended to an acceptable height and tried to remove it from orbit in early 2001. This operation was carried out during the next flight of the Endeavour shuttle. The cargo was loaded into the transport compartment. Endeavour landed safely, and when the find was recovered, it turned out that Smith was still on board, alive, but unconscious, since the temperature inside was close to absolute zero. When the temperature began to gradually rise, one of the specialists noticed that the astronaut seemed to be showing signs of life. Cryogenic medicine specialists urgently called for help. Gradually, the astronaut managed to revive, And then it turned out that the person who returned to Earth was not John Smith. The first suspicions arose after doctors and NASA specialists from one of the main U.S. military hospitals checked the patient's condition with his medical history. They immediately discovered strange differences. For example, very few people know that the human heart, in most cases, is not located on the left as is believed, is usually located, but practically the center of the chest. It's only partially displaced to the left. Sometimes there are people who have their heart deviated to the right, and such an anomaly as a rule does not lead to a deterioration in health and well-being, and Smith was such a person. In the present patient, the heart had a normal displacement to the left. Also, in Smith's medical records, there were signs of broken ribs from childhood. In the patient brought from space, all the ribs were flawless. He also had quite large moles. However, the newly arrived astronaut had no moles. Well, maybe little things that can still be explained, but there are other oddities about the mental abilities of the person in question. The original Smith was not good at mathematics. The returning astronaut could calculate cube roots of 18 digits. But there is much more. In particular, it was found that in the astronaut's personal notebook, which is given to everyone before the flight, there were only half of the 100 sheets. And out of the 50 pages, 24 had strange small symbols which did not resemble either Eastern hieroglyphics or ancient ideographic letters or letters of any modern alphabet. In general, experts had one hypothesis. John Smith did not return to Earth, but some kind of humanoid creature corresponding to this name and replaced the real astronaut. This incident was carefully classified, but while the authorities were deciding what to do, the astronaut mysteriously disappeared, and no one saw him leave the guarded complex. The guards did not see anyone leave the protected base. However, the fact remains, the John Smith chaos is still very much present in NASA itself. The U.S. military department did not respond to media reports about the strange astronaut. There is very small possibility that it's just a fictional story, but it also is true that sometimes reality surpasses fantasy, as the radiation zone where John Smith was located is a temporary abode of souls, known even by ancient mystics. Please leave your comments about this, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.